interestingly, only one car manufacturer claims that EVs will likely have a penetration rate of 100% by 2030. Very interesting which car company that is. Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Great to have you back. If you're new, make sure you subscribe so you get notifications in your feed. But if you're not new, fantastic to see you again. Got an interesting video here about what the Chinese leaders are saying about EVs, and it really shows to you where the Chinese market is heading. Now let's start with BYD. BYD has massively increased its NEV, new energy vehicle sales, over the past year. In fact, they've doubled them over the past year, and their ICE vehicle sales have shrunk dramatically. Now, BYD's vehicles represent 70% of their vehicles are NEV vehicles, new energy vehicles, with either a battery pack or a hybrid technology. And BYD expects to be selling only EVs by 2030. Now, BYD's founder Wang Chanfu said at a conference over the weekend that he believes EVs will account for at least 70% of the global market by 2030. But interestingly, the CEO of NIO, William Li, predicted a high penetration rate of at least 90% and potentially 100% by 2030. He is, as far as I know, the only CEO that has predicted that. Maybe Elon Musk hasn't been asked this question yet, and maybe he'd give the same answer. I don't know, but it's interesting to hear this from the CEO of NIO. And it shows you how he would be looking at the market. He'd be looking at the market, not thinking to himself, well, right now EVs make up only 10% of global car sales, and maybe they'll only be 40% by 2030. So therefore, we should plan for the fact that our market share will be this, and set plans for the future. Obviously, if he believes that basically the entire auto market will be EV by 2030, then they can plan for how they're going to take a slice of that market. And that is exactly what NIO is doing right now by building factories. Currently building a very, very big factory to significantly scale up production. Now guys, right now, electric vehicle sales represent 11.4% of all Chinese made and sold cars in China. Now obviously the Chinese government knows that there is a huge number of EV companies in China. In fact, a glut right now. Yes, there is a glut. It's true that there is a glut. Whether that will be a glut by 2030 is a different story though. And so they want EVs to succeed. Now, if you don't already know this, the Chinese government doesn't just subsidize EVs, the purchase price and other things. They also give a literal shit ton of money to these EV companies, which has resulted in what the West are calling a glut of Chinese car companies, battery companies, etc., etc. Is it really a glut? I don't think it is, because I think they're trying to plan for 2030, when I believe the Chinese government probably thinks it's very likely that a very, very, very large percentage of global car sales will be EV. Now, obviously, there are a number of electric car startups in China, but NIO actually leads its startup peers in terms of monthly deliveries. Their deliveries of 6,711 cars in May fell from 7,102 in April, remaining well below that of BYD. However, the reason those sales fell was because of issues that everyone else is having with microchips. So right now, NIO is selling as many cars as it can make, similar to Tesla. Now in May, BYD said its new energy passenger car sales rose 23% from the prior month to 31,681, of which just over half, about 19,000, were powered only by batteries. Now, right now, BYD is in the process of significantly ramping up production of its full battery electric cars and ramping up the production of the BYD Blade battery, which is a cheaper lithium iron phosphate battery that has, BYD say, a range of well over 1 million kilometers. Well over 1 million kilometers, and a higher energy density compared to the previous lithium iron phosphate batteries that BYD were making. Now, the company's Han sedan ranks among the 5 best-selling new energy vehicles sold in China, just behind Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y for the first 5 months of 2021. according to the China Passenger Car Association. In first place is the budget electric car, the Wuling Hongwan Mini, developed under a General Motors joint venture in China. And this car, in my opinion, as I've said on other videos, is the car that will change the world. Now, the Tesla Model 3 has certainly helped push many automakers towards recognizing the fact that EVs are here and they will be the market by 2030. But the Wuling Hongwan Mini is the car to really change the world in the sense of enabling most of the world to have a vehicle, or at least potentially half of the world to have a car when they otherwise would not have. And the reason for that is it costs only $5,000 US. And I believe the price actually might come down a little bit. Sounds crazy. I believe the price might come down as the cost of making batteries, the cost of making EVs continues to decline. What does that mean? It means that people who could never before own a car will be able to own one. And this is huge. This is so important for so many people, for changing the lives of so many people, for getting people off their crappy little motor scooters all over the world. There's literally billions of the things. When I lived in Taiwan and in China, they were everywhere. And there's a lot of smog, pollution caused by these. And getting people off those onto either an electric bike or into an electric car. It's such a great opportunity and such a great solution. Now, whether you believe this or not doesn't really matter, guys. And I'm not saying this because I love China. I'm not saying this because I'm some sort of country fan or whatever. You can see I'm not Chinese at all. I mean, I have no affiliation with China. China pays me nothing, obviously. It's just nonsense for you people in the comments to say that. But Chinese brands will dominate. The reason they'll dominate is the entire global auto market is 57 million. It's going to shrink. It's going to shrink because of automation, but it's going to shrink. However, remember, about 36% of the global auto market is in China. It doesn't matter that there's 1.4 billion people in India. They don't buy cars at the moment. The Chinese do. They sell 20 million cars a year in China, and the entire auto market is 57 million. So, China has enormous power, don't they? They have a glut of EV manufacturers in China, and the Chinese government is giving them a ton of money. What's going to happen? Well, obviously, most cars being sold in China will be Chinese, and they'll be EV by 2030. Therefore, obviously, local cars will dominate. It's just a mathematical reality. It's got nothing to do with my personal opinions. It's just what's going to happen. Now, that said, there are a number of joint ventures between Chinese companies and foreign companies, such as Volkswagen, GM, BMW, etc. Volkswagen, for example, have looked to launch electric cars in China first, quite a while ago, where sales of battery-powered vehicles have gotten a boost from central government subsidies and other preferential policies. But remember, Volkswagen's cars there are produced in a joint venture. Now, Beijing would like for 20% of all cars being sold in 2025 to be EVs. Now, as the new local energy vehicle market grows, BYD's Wang said he expects Chinese car brands will be able to account for 60% of all car sales in China by 2030. Thanks partly to their grasp of the core technology, their manufacturing advantages by making most of those parts, if not all of them, in China, and their cost competitiveness. For example, guys, you know how hard it is to get a permit to build a factory in Australia, in America, in Canada, in Europe? It's insanely difficult. There is so much bureaucracy and bullshit to deal with. Look at what's happened with Tesla in Germany. Environmental agencies from everywhere and all kinds of people that kick up a fuss. What happens when a Chinese car company wants to build a Chinese car manufacturing plant in China? The government gives them some money and says, go for it. That's what happens. And that is the Chinese advantage. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.